will stop sharing.
Good morning. I would like to thank Reverend Shemi and TCBA for inviting me to speak at this TCBA service. And I'd like to acknowledge the team that leads the Twin Cities Sangha, the minister's assistants, Gail Wong and Deborah Ting, and the team that supports the Sangha, led by Cheryl Suchia. This past May, as the picture shows, we're at Lake Toya in Hokkaido. Some of us went to Japan, my wife and I, Reverend Todd and Connie, Kyle and Sarah, Brian and Cheryl, and Laurie. And we had a great time on one of Brian Nagata's foodie tours of Tohoku and Hokkaido. It was lots of good food, a very interesting area of Japan, very rural. And then after the tour, my wife and I went back to Tokyo for almost a week, and it is a totally different experience. Tokyo is such a big city, but it is also part of Japan just as much as the rural parts of Hokkaido. And as you know, I recently retired late last year, and so far I'm enjoying retirement, but I have to admit I haven't found the rhythm and pace of retirement. So we will see how that continues to evolve. But this morning, I'd like to remind us about what makes Shin Buddhism, or Jodo Shinshu, so unique and yet so comfortable. First, Shin Buddhism comes from the Pure Land tradition of Buddhism and Shinran Shonin. Being part of Buddhism provides us with a foundation, the foundation of enlightenment, being a personal experience. That is, each of us discovers enlightenment in our own way and in our own path. Pure Land Buddhism gives us the path of Amida Buddha, which is the path, we call it the Nembutsu path. The path, Nembutsu, roughly translated or literally translated, think on Buddha. To think on and remember to say, call the name of Amida Buddha. This path is within Mahayana Buddhism, which allows us to take the essence of the historical Shakyamuni Buddha and his teachings without having to follow the exact same path, the same discipline. Then there are Honen Shonin and Shinran Shonin, who in the 1200s showed the path, a path that is free of having to be a monk or a nun to receive the gift of enlightenment from Amida Buddha. The Nembutsu path is for ordinary people, for all people without having any special talents or abilities. It includes everyone without discrimination of age, gender, wealth, race, or any other kinds of labels. It is the path for everyone. And thus I have often used the phrase, come as you are, as more than a welcoming phrase, but come as you are is really the basic teaching of Shinran's intent. All are welcome, yes, but more importantly, come as you are, just as you are as a human being, with all the baggage, all the limitations, all the things that make us who we are. Just come as you are. In particular, Shinran showed us that everyone, without exception, will surely be born in the Pure Land of Amida, and thus be ensured to become enlightened, to become a Buddha. And this is a quick history of the development of Shin Buddhism and the Buddhism that we are the beneficiaries of. Shin Buddhism is probably unique, and it leaves nobody behind. We are not a religion of the chosen few. We are the opposite. We are the chosen all. Everyone is included. Shin Buddhism certainly embraces basic Buddhist concepts like karma, change, inner impermanence, interdependence, non-ego, and etc. But we are not concerned about those things that we cannot control. However, the important thing is that we can break with karma. We can break with the path and make a sudden and transformative change. We are always able to change. We call this awakening with crosswise transcendence. It is possible to suddenly and unexpectedly change our lives. We call this Shinjin, or the awakening heart-mind. Shin Buddhists consider all of us Bonbu, or ordinary beings. Ordinary beings filled with limitations. Sometimes Bonbu is translated as being filled with evil passions. I don't like the word evil because evil is a word in English that has so many meanings that are not Buddhist. Evil in Buddhism is not compared to good, as in good and evil. Evil in Buddhism means to be filled with blind passions, the passions that get in the way of awakening to enlightenment. Thus, I use the term limitations. We are filled with limitations. But as Bonbu, we are all equal. Maybe in a sense of degree, some of us are less Bonbu than others, and some are more than others. But the bottom line is we are all incapable of enlightenment with our own efforts. Thus, we rely on Amida Buddha to guide us. And we come to realize that Amida Buddha is giving us enlightenment. We only have to receive it and accept it. But guess what? Most of us are not aware of this gift. Or maybe we refuse this gift. Or maybe we think we don't want this gift. We all have an ego that gets in the way. That's the biggest limitation, our ego. And we continue to think, I can do this on my own. Or maybe, I'm too busy now. I will deal with it later. Or any number of reasons. But fortunately, Amida Buddha is patient. Even if we ignore the gift of enlightenment in this life, we will be born in Amida's Pure Land to encounter Amida's wisdom and compassion after our physical death, in the spiritual realm of Amida's Pure Land. For this life, we have the opportunity to experience Shinjin if we are fortunate enough. The moment of receiving the gift of Amida's wisdom and compassion is the moment of Shinjin, the awakening to my limited self and receiving the gift from Amida Buddha. Of course, the trouble is we can't plan for it. We can hopefully live a life that lays the foundation. Reading, listening to the Dharma, listening to Dharma talks, learning from teachers, and being around other Buddhists, being part of the Sangha. These are the known and logical conditions that might help us encounter Shinjin. But more likely, those few of us who might encounter Shinjin in this life, it's more of an accident, something we cannot prepare for, and something we can't, certainly something that we don't strive for. It happens naturally in the natural course of being human. So one might ask, what should I do to be a good Shin Buddhist? And there are many answers. But I do remember Reverend Ogui, former minister of MBT in Twin Cities, and went on to be the bishop, and now retired. Reverend Ogui used to tell us often that we need three things: a sincere heart, a clear mind, and to always keep your sense of humor. These are good guidelines, and I always found it very interesting that he always said, keep a sense of humor. But it does really resonate. It reminds ourselves that we need to keep a sense of humor. And more than a sense of humor, I think we have to be able to laugh at others, to laugh with others, but most of all, to be able to laugh at yourself. We need to be able to not take ourselves too seriously. And when we laugh at our mistakes and we laugh at our lack of judgment, then, I mean, these things are always going on. We make mistakes, we make errors in judgment. We just have to be able to laugh at ourselves. And we say, oh, I did it again. Or, what a stupid me. I didn't know that. Just laugh at yourself. To keep your sense of humor to yourself, about yourself. And there was a time once, several years ago, someone asked me, what is the practice of a Shin Buddhist? And I didn't know. He was a minister's assistant. He had gone through courses and stuff. But he was serious. What is the practice? And I surprised myself when I said, you have to be able to laugh at yourself. And I think that is really an important thing to remember, to keep our sense of humor, to be able to laugh at ourselves. But of course, I have been often accused of being a contrarian, always going contrary to authority and tradition. And maybe I am, but I'm always questioning and searching. It is just me. I have not always followed tradition. For example, as a Kaikyoshi minister, I'm supposed to give Dharma talks or Howa, which has a prescribed structure and format. And I almost always do not do that. Instead, I give Dharma messages or Kanwa, feeling talks. Often I do not follow the doctrinal traditions of Honganji, and I will often understand Shinran's teachings a bit differently. But I will try to find the intent of Shinran. The intent of Shinran translated into my own understanding. So in short, I'm asking you to listen to Reverend Todd, to Reverend Chiemi, and all the others more closely than me. I don't think many other ministers would tell you to be a good Shin Buddhist, you always have to be able to laugh at yourself. But it is just one of the ways that I see how we enjoy life and to fulfill that promise, that vow of everyone finding enlightenment just by saying Namo Amida Butsu. It is a magical phrase. In my old age, I often look for ways of explaining the Dharma in simple terms. And I really like what Reverend Bob Oshta, the retired minister of the Sacramento Betsuin, he often said at opening and closings, but resonated with me, and I would like to close with that. Namo Amida Butsu, with gratitude and kindness beyond words. So,
thank you, Reverend Ron. We always enjoy hearing from you and hearing your words of wisdom. So